Hello, my name is Kirioth, and today we're going to talk about last week, which is a really weird sentence to say, but I feel like a couple of things have come together, and I owe an explanation for one, which happily ties into the other thing. So, it is Mental Health Awareness Week, which is fairly self-explanatory. It's a week which is dedicated to mental health awareness. There's loads of stuff online. I'll link to a couple of things in the description so you can read up, but yeah, it's excellent timing because last week I had a bit of a problem. So we missed a stream last Thursday, which I was a bit gutted about. I accidentally sort of double booked something, so I had a therapy session right when the stream was due to happen. And I thought to myself, rather foolishly, it's fine, I'll just reschedule. I'll do the stream in the evening, it'll all be good. Which, I'll be honest, at the time was ambitious to say the least, because these sessions do tend to take it out of me a little bit, and I wind up quite tired and a little bit, maybe not emotional, just very kind of dull. I'm not the happiest chappy. I'm more just kind of a bit subdued and pretty much ready to go to sleep after them, to be honest. It is like 2 hours of, well, it's 2 hours of therapy, so lots of lovely talking about stuff you probably really, given the choice, wouldn't like to talk about. And last week, also missed Friday's video, which I explained on Twitter, but I always like to do a follow-up. I had to do something like that and put something on Twitter on short notice saying, oh, I can't do a video. I do try and explain why, actually, on the channel afterwards when I'm feeling more up to it, because not everyone who is on the channel, you know, follows Twitter. So I think it's a good way to keep everyone informed, and there's also ulterior motives for everything, which again I'll explain in a minute. But yeah, so we missed Thursday's stream, we missed Friday's video, and that is because in the spirit of Mental Health Awareness Week, when I was doing my therapy session, we were covering a fairly tricky topic, which I'll warn you now, concerns self-harm. So if that's something that upsets you or disturbs you or you don't want to hear about, then by all means, I'll just give a little wave when I'm done talking about it, and then you can mute it until then. So yeah, essentially, I used to have an issue with that when I was a lot younger, when I was sort of between 15 and 18, I want to say, when I had depression back then, but I didn't know what it was, and I had severe social anxiety at the same time, and I received treatment for the anxiety, but I didn't really know what depression was, or I didn't know that I had it because I didn't understand it at all. All I knew was that there were certain methods that seemed to work in gaining control of my emotions at the time, and that was self-harm. And obviously that's not good. Don't do that. But I stopped doing that literally over a decade ago. That became something that was not necessary, and I managed to learn about it and the negative effects that can have. And I did a very good job of just stopping myself from doing it outright. It was a case of, right, okay, this was a terrible idea, that I'm done. And that was it. For years. I'm talking from when I was like, I want to say 17, 18 to like this year. Was it this year or last year? We're getting on close for 12 years. So overall, a success in not doing that, obviously. But as you know, I had a bit of an issue a couple of months ago where I had a full-on sort of major anxiety attack, and I kind of lost control of myself a little bit, and I wasn't as present as I needed to be to prevent myself. I get very itchy on my arm where I used to do that. It's psychosomatic, I know that, but I get really like, it's like a bone-deep itch. It's like, it's an itch that you have to scratch, but I don't, because I know not to. But I wasn't really in control of myself enough to prevent myself from doing it. That is the topic that we actually tackled last week on Thursday. And I can talk about it, it's fine. There's no sort of patient, doctor, therapist confidentiality. It applies to those two people. I can talk about whatever the hell I want to talk about. And that's why I'm telling you about it now. I thought I'd got enough distance on it after it had been a couple of months, and we worked on little things to kind of, if that situation ever arose again, which thankfully it hasn't, I would be able to use to steer away from that side of things. But it turns out I did not have enough distance on it at all, and it was one of those things where talking normally, yes, this is fine, that's fine, yeah, talking it through, And then it was like a split-second change where suddenly I had a massive anxiety attack. Just everything went horribly wrong, but there was no build-up. Like, there was no sort of, I don't like talking about this, it's bringing back stuff I don't want it to bring back. It was literally, yeah, oh god, and that was it. There was no in-between space at all, which I think, understandably, shook me up really badly. I thought I was in a much better position, in a much better place, and able to talk about it and kind of analyse it and consider it, and then it turns out I absolutely wasn't, which is, you know, not great. And that's what caused the cancellation of the stream on the Thursday and the lack of a video on Friday. Now, on Friday, I did do a bit of Drunksmith, which I actually think helped quite a lot. You could say that having a drink when you've just had some sort of, you know, reliving of a traumatic experience, probably not the best idea, but, you know, I had 24 hours on it, and I had a nice cider in the fridge, so I went for it. It wasn't that bad, but I just needed that time to, I guess, properly think about it without having to actually address it head on, if that makes any sense. Like, I was able to look at it from a bit of a distance without talking about it directly. It was just there, sort of in the back of my mind, and I managed to, I guess, kind of overcome that kind of feeling of panic and unease and just the general sensation that stuff was wrong by doing that. And I'm happy to say, it's like, I always say when it comes to this stuff, I always want to be honest with you guys, and I want to talk to you guys completely frankly, because people don't talk about this type of thing enough. They just don't. There's still a huge stigma attached to all of this, which I don't like, and I'm in a position where now I wasn't able to last week. Like, I went for the terrible method of typing it all out in Notepad and posting it on Twitter as a picture, which is the worst way to communicate anything. But I did it that way because at the time I knew I would be unable to record a video like this. Like, I just wouldn't be able to. It would be too close, it would be too real, and it would be too upsetting, and I wouldn't get the video done. So I settled for that method instead. Now though, you know what's going on, you know what the problem was, you know why I had to take that time off, and I think we got away with it okay, because it was only a couple of days. I have had to take longer, as you know, but this time wasn't too bad, and hopefully now that I've got that bit out of the way, I'll be kind of in a better position to deal with it in the future, and it won't have that sort of effect again. Now, one of the main reasons that I am also talking about this, and actually being as honest as I can about all of this stuff, not just the specifics of it, but just the general sort of condition of my clinical depression and everything that's happened in terms of that, is just because I still don't think people talk about it enough. Like, obviously it's a personal choice thing. I've made the personal choice to talk about this stuff to you guys on the basis that one of the worst things about depression and mental illness in general is the feeling of isolation that you can get. Like, the feeling that no one else knows what is happening, no one else really knows what it's like. You are alone in your suffering. You're the only person who has any idea how it feels to have that issue. Now, it sounds obvious, but it doesn't feel obvious that that's not true. There are countless people all over the world who have exactly the same problem, whether it be depression, whether it be anxiety, whether it be a severe mental illness like schizophrenia or something like that. There are so many people with that condition, but we just don't talk about it very often. And this being Mental Health Awareness Week, it's as good a time as any to kind of push the fact that, despite the fact that yes, I do have a shitty, stupid brain, I'm not alone in that. Now, you may not want to say that about yourself, obviously that's just the way that I've gone about it, but if you are at any point sitting there and you feel depressed, or you feel anxious, or any combination of the two, or you have that sensation that no one else could possibly know what this feels like because it feels so bad, and because at the end of the day, when you really examine the way that depression especially goes about separating people from others, you don't feel like you see people. You don't feel like you talk to people, even when you do, because you feel like they either don't understand or they don't want to be involved with you. And that's one of the worst things about it. It's the fact that even if you do make the effort to go out and be sociable and actually go against all of your inbuilt instincts of, I can't do this, your brain still finds a way to say, oh, you did it, but you'd have been better off not doing it. None of that's true. Obviously, none of that's true. People are happy to see you. They are happy to spend time with you. They do want to speak to you. You're not the only person who has that problem. You're not the only person in the world who has that issue. There are so many people who have that same problem, who feel the same way that you do. You're not alone is the key thing. You feel alone. I constantly feel alone with this. I constantly feel as though I am the only person. I live in isolation. Even when surrounded by people, I feel in isolation. But it's not true. There are always people there to help. There are always people there to listen. There are always people who have the same experiences, the same issues, who have found solutions. There's always someone to talk to. You're just not alone. And I feel like one of the best ways to make that clear is to talk about this stuff the way I have today, the way I've talked about stuff in the past, because I'm in a privileged position to be able to actually share this with the number of people that I can share it with. You guys are an amazing support network just by being there, by being people who watch what I do, who I can talk to and interact with. And a lot of people don't have that privilege. They don't have that position. They don't have that kind of support in general. But any time that I feel like I can not influence necessarily, but if one person watches this and goes, oh wow, they've got depression too, or they've got a mental illness as well, I'm not alone, that I consider that a win. Even if it's one person. Or maybe one person watches it and goes, oh, this seems a bit more complicated than I thought it was, I should look into it. I consider that to be vastly important work, a vastly important thing to do, which is why I do it. So every now and again, something like this will happen. And a video will come out afterwards, and it won't be anything to do with gaming. It'll only be vaguely attached to the channel in terms of what the actual content is. Because beyond explaining why I haven't made a video or I haven't streamed, you could argue that it has no place on a gaming channel. But I'm always going to talk about it, and I'm always going to make videos like these because I feel like people need to hear this stuff. It needs to become normal, it needs to become standard. You know, if I said, oh, I broke my leg so I was gone for a week, the response would be, oh, okay. But a lot of people don't feel like they can give that same simple explanation, that same clear information about mental health and why they're not able to do something. So I do it because I can, and because I feel like it's an important thing to do. So there you go. That's basically it. Wasn't able to make a couple of bits of content last week. It was down to an issue with my mental health. I've explained what that issue is, and if you feel the same way, if you've had the same issue, if you're having the same problems, you're not the only person who has that. And there are ways around it. There are ways to fix it, and they're not always simple. They're not always clear cut. They're not always just take this pill and you'll be fine. Sometimes you need more, like I do. Like I'm having cognitive behavioural therapy because I need more. But the fact is that's available. That is an option. That is something that can be done. That is something that is being done for me. There's always ways around this. So if you're sitting there watching this and thinking to yourself, I wish I could do that, you can. There are as many people who have been able to overcome this as there are who currently suffer it. You can do it. It's difficult, but you can. Trust me. I've already done it once before. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys. I hope you found that informative. I hope that was a good explanation as to why I wasn't around the end of last week. I hope some of you found that helpful. And again, if you're having that kind of issue, you're not alone. There's always people to talk to. There's a link to the Discord server in the description. We've got an amazing community. You can probably find someone there, including me, because I like to talk to people as well, funnily enough. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Toodaloo.